Okay, I'm talking about William Cowan. We called him Bill Cowan, and he was my uncle, my favorite uncle. And you would not think that an uncle would make such a huge impression on a 3.5-year-old, but he did. Our family was the last family that he saw before he departed for his overseas term. He was only 25 and he'd been reluctant to join the forces. I don't think it was in his nature to be a fighter. He was very well liked when he went to high school and public school, and people said about him, he just had winning ways. The boys, Bill and his brothers, were brought up with a very astute understanding of Guelph history because my grandfather was so enamored of it. Bill wasn't scholastic in the sense that his brothers were. I don't think he ever thought of going to university. He worked at the bank, but he was such a handsome young man and such a lovely personality, and he could enter into child's play. That's what I think all of his nieces loved about him, that he was just willing to play with us. We always had fun with Uncle Bill. The last day he came to dinner at our place, my father was overseas, and my mother and my sister and I were living in a rented house across the park from our grandparents. And Bill came over the last night. Uncle Bill came over and he played horsey with me and he rocked my baby sister. And then he took me upstairs and read me a bedtime story. And I know it seems maybe strange to people, but at that time, my grandparents had already had one son killed 6 weeks before Bill was killed. So there was a great deal of sorrow that wasn't just in our family, it was in every family really along the street. Whether or not they had someone serving in the armed forces, they really felt the loss and the apprehension and the fear that people were feeling. Anyway, my Uncle Bill read me a story about a kitten, and then he gave me a hug that I'll never forget. And it was a feeling of fear, really, I think, pervaded the room that night. And he just gave me a final hug and he went. And years later, I went to Groesbeek Cemetery in Holland, and I looked at his grave and I thought, I was the last person in our family who saw you, Bill. And it was very powerful. And here I am, 80. And, something like that will never leave you.